Hi, welcome to today's Piece of Peace. I don't think there could be a day, at least in Minneapolis or in Minnesota or across our world, that we would need God's peace today. I woke up this morning writing just about trying to get into this, bringing my mindset to a place of gratitude and thankfulness. And in light of what was happening in Minneapolis with protests and riots, with grief and fear, it has been a very upheaving, tumultuous time in the midst of a pandemic. Life like I've never seen before. And as I was trying to write out my thoughts of gratitude, the backdrop was kind of painted with things that were really difficult and hard, unresolved, fearful, angry. It brought me into Ecclesiastes, where the writer of that, some think it was Solomon, wrote out just how everything in life seemed incredibly meaningless. No matter how much hard work and toil you did under the sun, it was all going to be gone when you died, and everything absolutely seemed meaningless. Meaningless unless God was our center and our focus, and that we could trust in the fact that there's more than we see, more than what we're experiencing, how and what He has for us. I think about the scripture then telling us that everything will be meaningless in our life. Things will not be settled. Things will not make sense unless there is the Creator involved. Because the creation is always seeking for it, but not finding it without Him. I want to read right away into the devotion written by Sheridan Voysey, and he titles it "Do Whatever." And he says, in a recent film, a self-proclaimed genius rants to the camera about the world's horror, corruption, ignorance, and poverty, declaring life to be godless and absurd. Can feel that way right now. While such thinking isn't unusual in many modern film scripts, what's interesting is where it leads. In the end, the lead character turns to the audience and implores us to do whatever it takes to find a little happiness. For him, this includes leaving traditional morality behind. And sometimes I think that's exactly what we've been seeing, is leaving traditional morality behind and things that are moving in directions that are godless. And I think about that and poignantly point out just the death of Mr. Floyd, the riots that are happening, the lack of respect for other people's lives, both in a man who was defenseless, losing his life, and in business owners and people of communities having to live in fear or lose everything they have. There's been leaving traditional morality behind and a godless sense in this time. Sheridan goes on and writes, but will the do whatever work? Facing his own despair at life's horrors, the Old Testament writer of Ecclesiastes gave it a try long ago, searching for happiness through pleasure, grand work projects, riches, and philosophical inquiry. And his assessment was, of all of it, it was just meaningless, a chasing after the wind. None of these things is immune to death, disaster, or injustice. Only one thing brings the writer of Ecclesiastes back from despair. Despite life's trials, we can find fulfillment when God is part of our living and our working. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? That's from Ecclesiastes 2:25. Don't exhaust yourself trying to figure life out, but fear God. Keep his commandments. Without God as our center, life's pleasures and sorrows lead only to disillusionment. The writer of the devotion brings us into Romans 8. And it's verse 11, and then continuing on, it says, "And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus Christ from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to our mortal bodies through his spirit who lives in us." And he goes on and says in 18, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory of what will be revealed in us. The creation waits in eager expectation for the sons of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of who has subject it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into glorious freedom as children of God. We who are the whole creation, we know that the whole creation has been groaning in its pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. For this is the hope we were saved. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is not hope at all. For who hopes for what they already have? But we hope for what we do not have yet. We wait for it patiently, the coming of Jesus Christ." How much of you seek happiness through things that won't last? Since the writer of Ecclesiastes didn't know the hope of resurrection, that's why we read in Romans that we have this hope of Jesus. His prayer to us is, "God, today I place you anew at the center of my living, working, joys, and disappointments. For without you, nothing will satisfy and nothing will make sense. In this tumultuous time of life, absolutely nothing is going to make sense. We need him more desperately now than ever." I'm going to read in Jesus Calling, Sarah Young's book. You can download her app. You can buy this online. And here's what God's resolve is for us today. This is written from a perspective of God speaking to us. "Time with me cannot be rushed. When you are in a hurry, your mind flitters back and forth between me and the tasks ahead of you. Push back the demands pressing on you. Create a safe space around you, a haven in which you can rest with me. I also desire this time of focused attention, and I use it to bless you, strengthen and equipping you for the day ahead. Thus, spending time with me is a wise investment. Bring me the sacrifice of your precious time. This creates sacred space around you, space permeated with my presence and my peace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you find a piece of peace with God and in his presence today. God's blessing on you.